on Geek Street Society Radio. Yes, yes, yes. GSS.
GSS.
GSS. Oh, that was epic. That felt good.
That was super epic.
KGSS.
So much enthusiasm. Wow.
I know.
Yes. Welcome back to Master Control. I am Ace.
I'm Phee.
I'm Sarah.
I'm pseudo Stache.
The replacement Stache for now, Mr. Mark. How you guys doing tonight? All right. So before we were talking about good old-fashioned Helix, which is the new show coming up on Sci-Fi. I know that didn't make sense.
Good old-fashioned new TV show.
If you judge me, remember, be kind. But yes, we're talking about Helix, and something I actually did not notice until now is that an actor I love is in it, and his name is Hiroyuki Sanada. You'll recognize him from The Wolverine. He played Shingen. I'm horrible at pronunciations, and I took Japanese. Just shows. He was in 47 Ronin. He is also playing Dr. Hiroshi Hatake in Helix. He was also in Rush Hour 3. He was Kenji, if you all remember him.
Oh, I do.
In a less-known movie, sadly less-known movie, he is in Sunshine as Kanata. Now, for all of you out there, Sunshine is one of my personal favorite sci-fi movies out there. I believe it's completely underrated. Phee?
Here I am being a slacker.
Yep.
I'm like, what's Sunshine?
So has anyone else seen Sunshine? If you have, go ahead and call us at 1-855-303-GEEK. Again, that's 1-855-303-4335. Give us a call. Tell us about Sunshine or any other, lower-key sci-fi movies that you love. And make sure to chat with us on twitch.tv on our live stream. We're here chatting back, ready to go. So, yes, but Sunshine, anyone else around here seen it?
I have.
All right, cool. That makes two of us.
If any of you guys have seen it out there, feel free to call in because we will be on air live with you if you call.
I did see this.
At 1-866.
I know which one.
1-855-303-4335. Now,
I'm so bad at that.
the Stache just gave us a shout out on the Twitch chat. He is here in spirit, but not in the flesh. He says forgive his absence because he has jet lag.
Oh.
Sadly.
We'll forgive you this once, Stache.
And you're right. Early science fiction is delightfully cheesy. I love it. And Sunshine is one of the greatest sci-fi films ever made. Stache, thank you. Reaching out, giving us the bonus there. Yes.
Stache.
GSS. But yes, everyone get on that Twitch and talk to us. But on to, Sunshine. Sarah, how do you feel about it? What was your, take?
I don't know. I guess for me, thinking about the plot synopsis, the way you were mentioning it earlier, and just kind of thinking back to it. I mean, for me, I'm a huge astronomy nerd. If I didn't go to school for art, it would have been for astronomy. And I don't want to give away. What should I give away? I'm not sure what to say without giving anything away.
You can talk on me. It's okay.
Not the ending. Just the ending. For people that have seen it, we are not going to talk past when they get to the point with Taco, the other ship. That's the only spoiler you're getting after that point.
Yep.
So nothing after they meet the other ship.
Oh, okay. Trying to think of when that was.
And there's a reason why there's all that dust in space, isn't there?
Yeah.
I think
I
all
remember
that
the movie
dust.
now.
Human skin.
Yes.
Most of the
Kinda
dust.
disgusting, yes.
I guess for me, as an astronomy person who really is in astronomy as a side hobby, I guess for me, the story is really unique. Like I said, I'm not sure if I should give away the plot synopsis or not, but I guess story-wise, it's interesting, but then I try to think, how plausible is that to really happen? And that's where I'm just kind of and then their method of trying to do what they do. I'm sorry, I'm just trying so hard not to give anything away.
That's actually the. I know what you think you're gonna spoil. It's not a spoiler. That is actually just the straight up plot of the movie.
Okay.
So, which is pretty much these guys. The Earth is cooling down because the sun is starting to die out. And it's not dying out in the big, massive explosion. It's not getting bigger. It's just getting weaker, which For you physics and astronomy people out there, yeah, I know.
Yeah,
I know.
yeah, and that's why I'm kind of like iffy. And then you said they tried, in the film they use what did you say, nuclear?
They try to use a nuclear bomb
to kickstart the sun. It's like that. I'm sorry, that would not work. And it's like the story is unique because it's like, what if the sun were to go out, but that's not how the sun would go out.
One little nuclear bomb.
It is not.
And using a nuclear bomb a nuclear bomb is nowhere big enough to even try to kickstart the sun. I mean, you would have to use
be a strong nuclear bomb.
Not even just strong. I don't even think a million nuclear bombs would be able to.
I think is that what it's like?
Well,
Is the sun's like a million nuclear bombs going off all the time?
The idea, though, because
it is a unique idea.
That is what the sun is. It is a constant chain reaction of atomic explosions. It's really atoms splitting, molecules condensing, and building, becoming heavier molecules.
It's burning fuel, isn't it? It's converting hydrogen into helium
and into heavier elements that then make the density of the core of the sun.
And then it starts turning helium into
so technically
different something else. I can't remember.
In technicality and in planning, it could work, because what you're doing is that you're taking this bomb and you've shielded it and you're putting it directly into the center of the sun with the heavier elements, and you're setting off that atomic explosion, which will cause the heavier elements to then start breaking down faster, just a little bit. I mean, obviously the sun is so massive, our bombs won't do jack, but great movie. So yeah, they decide to send this ship out, and it's about the crew and their experiences going through, and they're the second ship that was sent out, and so it's about them and their mission to get this done.
It's the idea, I think. It's a unique idea. Just like what was it? I think it was one of the Twilight Zone episodes where that lady had the dream of the sun was getting closer, and then when she, never mind, I'm not going to finish that because I might spoil it.
Obviously, it's Twilight Zone is within the realm of, just say taco first, within the realm of not being too spoiled.
Just taco that.
And I can tell the whole rest of the thing after she wakes up, right? I'm assuming you guys have seen this episode. I'm pretty sure. And she wakes up, taco. So if you don't want the ending spoiled, here's your warning. And when she wakes up, it actually turns out the Earth is getting further, or the sun is getting further away from the Earth, and the Earth is starting to freeze. And it's
a bad day.
Oh yeah, and that's just how it is. And and that's why I love Twilight Zone. And that's why I'm kind of thinking in the sense of that show is the sun is cooling the Earth, or the lack of sun is cooling the Earth. So I'm just the plausibility. But then I think, well, I guess if Twilight Zone did it, then why can't this movie do it?
Twilight Zone's done everything, everything sci-fi. Twilight Zone's done it first. But, the Stache actually, giving a shout out to Stache, he mentioned 2001 A Space Odyssey, which is and he called.
Stache called? What?
We missed him?
Oh,
sad
And you guys didn't pick up?
Huh?
The phone wouldn't go in.
Sad face. Stache tried to reach out. We're reaching back to you, Stache. 2001 A Space Odyssey, saying that the special effects for the time were amazing. And you know what? You are right. I love those monkeys in the beginning. You guys consider at the time it actually was amazing special effects. But it is a hard movie to get through because it's really slow, especially in the beginning. I know a lot of people that can't even get past the monkey scene. Just crash.
They're no, I'm done.
Which is sad because really the kicker of that movie is the ending. For me. The ending of that movie was just oh my gosh. Another one is The Thing. And I gotta say, The Thing, great classic sci-fi and horror. I actually really love the remake, which is not a remake, but a prequel.
What?
Taco. Taco, yes, the newer Thing is a prequel to the other Thing, and it's actually a great movie. Both of them fantastic. That's one of the remakes that lived up. But, yes, story is brilliant. Brilliantly done.
Can you hear me?
Hello!
Yes, we can! Hey!
Welcome to Master Control.
What's going on?
What's going on? How are you today? Tell everyone who you are.
Who is
well, I just wanted to call in and say yes, because I know you guys do a lot of hard work on the Master Control. I appreciate the Sci-Fi Fantasy that you guys covered.
Yeah.
Yay.
Well, thank you very much. We appreciate you. And we'll give you back a yes, yes, yes. GSS.
Yes.
Yeah.
Woo!
Yeah. Yes.
Oh, good times. Anyone else who wants to call in, you feel free.
Number is 1-855-303-4335. Or easier to remember, 1-855-303-GEEK.
Unless you're me, in which case, apparently, like, remembering that is just somehow blocked in my mind.
Yes.
My
And
bad.
Don't be afraid to talk to us. Strike up a conversation. If we haven't touched on a topic that you want to talk about, bring it up.
Def.
Yes. And don't forget, if you can't remember numbers, much like Phee here and myself, then you can go ahead and go to twitch.tv and watch our live feed and go ahead and chat with us. Because we are chatting back. Wow, Stache, Attack of the Mutant Jellyfish. That's going off the radar for sci-fi. That's like, whoa.
Can we make that
Deep
like our
space.
homework right there? Like, that sounds like something that needs to happen, like, now.
He says it is one of the worst, best sci-fi fiction films ever. We obviously
Stache,
have not
you're so
seen
good
it.
at finding those.
You are our B-rate unknown movie guy.
Yeah.
The movies
True
that
that.
weren't supposed to be known.
Like, he's
Or were
making
they?
them known.
Some you don't want them to be.
Yeah, which I still have not watched that.
Okay, Toxic Adventure, one of my
I'm sorry.
favorites.
Toxic Adventure. Man, you go back
Toxic
to Buck Rogers.
Adventure,
though.
yes, I do.
Man,
Buck Rogers.
Can't
There's
forget
nothing
Harry
like Buck
Housen.
Rogers, where
Do-
the smoke goes up and the flames go down as the ship's going across the screen.
anybody remember Buck Rogers? I think everybody has heard of it or seen it, because if you've ever seen a toy spaceship going and sparks falling out the butt of it and smoke flying up the top and it's obviously on strings just kind of dancing through space, that's Buck Rogers. One of the original sci-fi shows. Fantastic.
And you gotta love it.
Check that out. And check out Attack of the Mutant Jellyfish and tell us how it is. You can comment on our Facebook page and Twitter and let us know how you feel about that, and go ahead and call in next show and tell us what you thought about Attack of the Mutant Jellyfish, if you can find it.
And next show, we're also going to be talking about more Twilight Zone. So
You paused there on Twilight. I'm like,
Nobody
no,
remembers those
no. She just said Twilight Zone. I think you gave everyone a heart attack there for a second.
can we just skip the Twilight? Like, I'm just saying for Evs, can we? I'm okay to skip. I've
right.
never watched
Just call it the
Twilight. I've
Zone.
never read Twilight.
When it comes to Twilight Zone, just call it the Zone.
the Zone, all right, we
Zone.
we gonna be
That's-
talking.
When
in
you
the
write
Zone
when you
next
write
week.
Twilight Zone Tower Terror at Disneyland like I have, you don't call it Hollywood Tower Terror. You just call it the Zone, because that's it. It's just because you go into the Twilight Zone, it's
Yes.
Go to the Zone. You get to
Do,
the
do, do,
Zone.
do,
Oh,
do,
yeah.
do,
I
do,
gotcha.
do.
I gotcha. I'm so excited for that
God, you know
because
what's so-
there's so much. to
Oh
talk
man,
about.
speaking of Twilight Zone, Rod Sterling,
Rod
really, or yeah,
Serling.
Serling.
Sterling. Oh my goodness, my bad. The way he talks, I used to make fun when you stand in line at the ride at Disneyland. It gives you they have a Twilight Zone intro, and you watch it on a black and white TV, and it's the real Rod Serling doing the intro. And I don't know if it's the way it's recorded or the way he talks, but he sounds like he's talking like with a mouthful of spit. And so I used to make fun of him because he's like, "Hi, welcome to the Twilight Zone," and I'm just like, "Is like say he sounds like he's talking with a mouthful of
Strange
spit."
things happen here.
Exactly.
I think it's
The way
because he
he
was
talks.
also a notorious chain smoker. And
Probably
if you
that
can't get
too.
that just from his intros, where he always has a cigarette
Yep.
in the
Yes.
Twilight Zone. I love him, though. I think it was partially because of that big gap in his teeth, and because just everything from that era sounded like that. Like, everyone's voice back then on audio was the same.
I
Like-
think it's just because of the quality of the audio
It
and all that,
really
and
is.
their material, the tools that they had. But
Gosh,
I still make fun of it. But because that ride was made in like I think it was like in the early to mid '90s, and it was first came out in Walt Disney World in Florida, and it really is a real Rod Serling. So I think they must have done it for authenticity,
Authenticity,
because
yeah,
when
yeah.
you do watch actual like Twilight Zone episodes, he still has that. I think it's just the audio, and because it's that classic like 1960s kind of look. So
Yeah.
But, you gotta like that old school kind of sci-fi view of the future. And part of that is the post-apocalyptic.
Oh yeah, there's a lot of that.
And-
One of the things you've never done is if you haven't lived until you used to see creature features. And what they used to do is
snap.
they'd have these 50s, and they'd have the giant mutated spiders, the giant mutated ants, and the giant mutated.
remember that movie 8-Legged Freaks with like I
terrible.
think it's David Arquette. I watched
Yeah.
that movie I can't remember a time where I watched a movie and the first thing that came in my mouth was right behind you, and then I was just like, "Oh, wait a second, Sarah, why did you do that?" But that movie, it's like, you know, it's one thing if you have giant spiders like Shelob and her little friends and the rings, and then when you got the giant Aragog in Harry Potter, but when you got like a bunch of random giant butt spiders running around town, then it just loses the scariness. You're just kind of like, what?
It's also in black and white, so you really, you know, I mean, it's hard to.
Or arachnophobia. That one was a little scary just because those spiders were normal size. Yeah. That one was a little creepy.
Right. I think small spiders are scarier because you can't see them.
Exactly.
They just come out of nowhere.
Oh, it was camel spiders, though.
And we have a caller.
Woo! Hi, caller.
You're on.
Hello.
Can we get a yes, KGSS?
Hello?
Hello. Can we get your name real quick, sir? Sir, can we get a yes? We're having some technical difficulties here.
Yeah. Yes. Who we talking to?
Aw.
Dang.
We here talking.
There's somebody there I know.
You guys have an awesome show. Keep up the good work.
Oh, thank you.
Well, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Well, thank you very much. Sorry.
Yeah.
Well, sorry about technical difficulties here. Sorry about technical difficulties. We appreciate it. And thank you for calling.
Yay.
Try to get that fixed as soon as possible.
Indeed.
Don't be afraid to call in. Don't be afraid
Please
to
keep trying.
meet us on the chat at twitch.tv and follow us on our other media outlets like facebook.com/Geek Street Society. But, you know, back onto the post-apocalyptic, you know what I really liked that really changed my view of post-apocalyptic was Hunger Games. Because that was post-apocalyptic.
Yep.
That was like after the world went to crazy and then after they fixed it. Like,
I like
they
because
didn't fix
it's like
it so good.
of all the apocalypse movies that you see, it's always like what happens, like the aftermath, and it's like, well, what happens like
After
50 to
the
60 years
aftermath.
when the survivors finally have kind of rejoined, and that's what I like. And it's not just like one section; you get to see what happens to the entire U.S. in this case.
yeah, it's like 50 generations after Book of Eli.
Yeah, exactly. My only disappointment is the fact that they don't ever really go into detail as to what happened, what caused the apocalypse. All you know is that this is the result, and everyone who isn't living in the capital is screwed.
Well, at the same time, I like that because it kind of keeps it separated. Because how would they know, right? I mean, more than half their population is living in poverty.
And it would have to be a whole other story on top of it. And it pulls away from the social and political not morals, but statements and what the story's really about. I'm not finding the right words here.
Going back to the book and movie thing, since you're one of those on the bridge people, which I respect a lot, what did you think about the newest Hunger Games about catching fire?
I think they did a really good job, and I know some people still complain about the ethnicity of Rue and the and her partner and the partner that was also in it. I don't understand why people throw a fit over it. That bothers me because it's like, why does it matter? You know, to me, that's how I imagined her in the book, as being dark-skinned, and I don't understand why it bothered people. It's like, you know, they did a good job casting, and then when they showed Taco, if you haven't seen the movie yet, when they show Rue's family, when Katniss and Peter are on their tour around the different districts, you see Rue's family and the other guy's family, and I think they did a really good job. So I think they stuck to the story well, and they got all the high points and low points as well.
Indeed, but we are going on a break, so we will continue up our talk about the Hunger Games, Catching Fire, and the other one, comparing to the books and everything about it, right after this break. So make sure to follow us on Twitter at GeekStreetGSS and like our Facebook page at facebook.com/Geek Street Society, and check out our live feed if you're not already at twitch.tv #GSS Master Control. Check us out. You can also find us by going through twitch.tv and Chris Yoko. That is Yoko with a C for Chris. And YouTube.com, hashtag Geek Street Society, and download the mobile apps, Spreaker and TuneIn. Again, find us with hashtag Geek Street Society, for we are GSS. Can I get a yes, yes, yes? Yes, yes, yes! KGSS.
Yeah. We're doing the K. Are we going with that?
We're doing
All
the
right.
K. We will see you right after.
Gear to show off your style? There's no better place to get it than Leather Direct. You need hats, jackets, clothing, and accessories, and Leather Direct has the connection for your authentic and licensed outerwear. With over 26 NFL teams available, you can't afford to not check out the local selection. Because whether it's NASCAR, NBA, or a classic Fonzie jacket, Leather Direct has a deal for you. There is something for everyone with a great selection of jackets in women and kid sizes. If your kids love Spider-Man, Batman, or just want to smash with the Hulk, they want this gear, and now you know where to find it. Don't wait another second, because the deals at Leather Direct fly off the racks, and you don't want to miss out on your one-of-a-kind jacket. Go to the Aurora Mall and visit Leather Direct, and when you mention Geek Street Society at the counter, you'll receive an additional 10% off. So whether it's Broncos, Bulls, Betty Boop, Jeff Gordon, or anything else, you can do the shopping yourself. Don't trust a middleman. It's time to check Leather Direct.
Are you suffering from target jitter? Having trouble controlling your reticle? Worried about low KDR? Then ask the internet about Reticule Advanced Targeting Systems. It's a non-adhesive film that clings to your television and won't damage it. It helps improve target jitter, eye muscle memory, and KDR. It's available for sale now at geekstreetsociety.com. Just click on the store link. It comes in 3 sizes: sniper, ambush, and firefight for any size TV. Side effects may include awesomeness, kill streaks, and the adulation of your peers. Reticule. Stop taping shit to your screen.
Hold it.
Gaming is a sport.
Hold it.
Training is a must.
Hold it.
Reticule is the tool.
Release! Release!
I'm releasing.
Money in my pocket, money in my pocket, money in my pocket, money in my pocket. money in my pocket, money in my pocket.
Welcome back.
Howdy. Master Control. I am Ace.
I'm Phee.
I'm Sarah.
I'm Mark.
And we are Master Control. Thank you for tuning back in, and make sure to give us a call, because we are talking all things good sci-fi and fantasy, and we're also talking B-rate movies and The Hunger Games, which is not a B-rate movie.
Not at all.
Do not
no. Not at all.
misquote me.
No
No misquotes.
Depends the point of view.
I mean, I guess some people, if you compare it to the book.
It's not like the
It could
leading
be.
actress has the leading actress has an Oscar or anything.
Yeah, nothing
Yeah.
like that.
Speaking
But,
of B rates too, I found this wonderful website out there we should all go look at, and it's cinemacom.com. Go to cinemacom.com and the 50s sci-fi, and they got 80 posters of the not so great and even worse sci-fi movies from 1950 to 1965, and I recommend them. I've seen quite a few of them myself, so you should check them out. Vincent Price is out there, Zsa Zsa Gabor.
Oh,
You know,
Zsa
there
Zsa
you
and
go. There
Vincent.
you
By
go.
the good and plenty. Could I get that website name one more time?
That is www.cinemacom.com. And
Check
so,
that out.
check that out for a huge list of wonderful B-rate movies.
Beautiful list.
Yes.
Oh, so horrible and great at all at the same time.
At the same time.
Bundled up into
I
one
wonder if Adrian
package.
Barbeau's out there. Let's see.
Doubtful. But not at the same time. Because
that's
we
right.
have hope. Because hope will set us free. Hunger Games.
True that.
Segue.
Yeah.
But, we were talking about, how you felt against the books and movies. Phee, how did you feel? Did you read the books?
I did. I read all the books before the first movie came out, and the first movie I wasn't as stoked on the differences. I thought they were a little bit too many for my personal liking, but I'm also one of those people who don't necessarily like it when they transition into movies. I always feel like they screw it up. But I do think that the second movie they did a really good job for the time that a movie gives you. I think they did a really good job, honestly, for the second movie.
And they get, higher budgets, so that allows them more allotted time,
A lot
better
more
script writing, more
CGI.
time
Yeah.
planning. That's why, when you see, when you watch movies that have sagas or like Harry Potter or Lord of the Rings, the first one is always just it's not going to be all that spectacular because, like I said, it's usually smaller budget because they don't know how it's going to turn out. And as soon as it's a hit, they got so much more money from the studios, and that gives them more allotted time to better
very
screenwrite plan, and they can make it longer. And
Better special effects.
better special effects, and they
that's
can get
something-
more accomplished actors in there as well for other parts.
Yeah, and that's something about this last movie that I loved. I loved how they did the arena. As someone that loosely
So
read the
good.
books,
So good.
loosely read the books, I did love them though. I think they did a good job with the arena, and I also think that they did a good job story-wise of keeping Katniss in the dark and keeping us in the dark with her, because that's one of the problems that people had with the first movie is the books are written in her perspective,
Yeah.
purely her perspective. You
Yes.
don't know what's going on anywhere else.
Yeah.
And But they added in, they couldn't do that with the movie, so they added in all those little things like the game master and stuff, which I loved. And I loved how they kept that and were able to keep her kind of in the darkness of everything that's going on. I will not give a taco because the Hunger Games Catching Fire is still pretty new, but yes.
I do think they also did a really good job in the second one of mending that relationship between her and Peeta that they really skipped over in the first one.
They
but
did.
I guess one thing I kind of like about the Hunger Games is the fact that it focuses less on the romance, and it focuses so much less on her relationships, and it's really about her and the politics, and that's why I like it a little bit more. I mean, sure, what person doesn't like a little romance here and there, but I like it because that is a subplot. Romance is the subplot as opposed to the politics. It's literally the reverse of like movies that come out these days that are all about the romance and then everything else is a subplot. No. The subplot is the romance and the action and the politics and the morals and all that. That is what your main focus is on. And that's what I like about it. But it is kind of nice seeing her mend that relationship with Peeta. And it is kind of interesting seeing her kind of like be a little bit on the fence because it's like on top of everything that's going on at the Capitol and all that stuff, you also are dealing with, she's got like two of these guys that she's close with, and she's just kind of like, I can't, no, just let's play the games. Let's play the games, guys. Come on.
Like, I'm not looking at any of that. I just got to get through this.
I don't need no man.
Yeah. I mean, yeah.
Yeah, you know, that's the thing. In the first movie, it felt like they just pushed it too hard. That I don't know which. That's because I'm always afraid when there's that double love interest where it's going to be like, oh, which one do I love?
So long as
he's hunky, but I've been through stuff with him.
Nudity,
it's
and
like
violence.
No, and I like actually how the second movie didn't press on that too hard.
Yeah,
exactly.
No,
but
subtlety. They made it how it really was in the book. I feel like they stayed true to the book in that regard, and that's what I appreciated about that.
And Katniss isn't one of those girls that's like, boys, you know, she's more of like, they can wait. I need to figure out how to keep myself alive and how to keep my family alive, kind of a thing. So I think that's she's kind of like, to me, she's like a Lara Croft. She's a strong female lead that doesn't need no man.
This is super funny because whenever we've talked about the Hunger Games in the past, we're like, she sucks.
You know, Stache is actually saying something. The flaming outfits he believes are lame in the movies, however, and I gotta say, the second one was better, but it was the same exact level of disappointment as from the first one. And the cool thing is, if you watch the special features of the first movie, the flames, and a lot of people didn't get this, the flames are supposed to look like butterfly wings coming out their backs.
Yeah.
You can't tell because flames, you know,
dance,
go up and dance, but that's the idea of it. And I think the second one, by taking that out and kind of making it more obvious what they were trying to do with it, made it a little bit better, but I still feel like it was lacking from the touch that they gave it in the books, you know.
Right.
But that would be a really hard thing to actually really recreate too. And I mean, I think the second movie did a lot better of a job.
And you still want it to look believably realistic. I mean, that's one thing that's when it comes to special effects, and this is one thing I learned at the Art Institute, is that, you know, you can only do so much. You can only make it look so real. It's like, okay, what do you think the audience wants? More realism, or do you want it to look more cartoony? It's like either way, it's like someone somewhere is going to be disappointed with what we do. So let's just go with what we think is right. And they do the best that they can do.
Well, sometimes you can also make it too real. Like we were when we were doing our review of The Hobbit. When you watch The Hobbit in the new frame rate with like RPX and with the 3D, it felt like the CGI
it's too much.
It was just too much. It was just too real. It was just versus the people too, who also became it kind of opened up the gap by making the CGI a little too much.
Well, I think these days, like, I know some people don't like the James Cameron's Avatar. I know some people hate it. Some people like it. I like it.
I like it.
I really liked it, and you know, that was one of those cases where the whole movie was pretty much just CGI, and they did it to the point where they wanted it to look real and it was believable. And I think it depends on what kind of movie that you're in. I think if you're in like an alien world like Avatar, or if you're in Middle Earth, or you know, you want it to be really believable. And for me, the more believable it is, the more it pulls me. And I don't think there's no such thing as too realistic motion or visual effects, because that's what they're going for. They want you to believe that it's real, and that's the thing about like
but
Avatar.
I think it went the other way. I think the problem is they did it so well that it went the other way. It actually separated it from the realism because it was just too much.
But then there's movies like, if anybody remembers this, Final Fantasy the movie.
Which
anybody?
one? Advent Children?
Are you referring to Spirits Within?
I believe so. It's the one.
The one where you've got like Aki
CGI.
Ross, the doctor, and they're trying to figure out what the like thing is that's going all around,
The one with
like
Gaia.
that weird like orange
Advent
phantom
Children
stuff.
and,
The one with Gaia.
I think so. If I'm thinking of
I don't think it really didn't
Sid
have
was a
much to do
doctor.
with the Final Fantasy universe, but it was.
Oh, that
called-
was Spirits Within, I think you're talking
Yeah, that was
about.
totally
Because
Spirits
there's
Within.
Advent Children, which is the sequel to Final Fantasy VII. Then there's Spirits Within, which was like its own thing, and I did not
I
like
think it was-
Spirits Within.
But at
Oh,
the
I
same
love
time,
Spirits
was,
Within. Spirits Within was awesome.
The thing that I liked about it, though, is I didn't realize that the people weren't real until the second time I saw it.
Yeah,
I was
there were
tired,
times like
but
I still have that, and I'll watch.
CGI
Yeah, that CGI is
showed me
amazing.
what CGI can do.
You know, I'll watch it sometimes, and even now, like years later, even when the CGI has gotten better, I'll still sometimes catch myself just even forgetting that there's CGI people there, and then all of a sudden
Exactly.
it's like, man, this actress would be great in. Oh wait, she doesn't actually exist. She's not a real person.
Yeah,
Like-
exactly.
Like Aggro from the Twitch chat, like Aggro621 said, that was really the first CGI movie to have hair look real. And they actually did go into the detail and make sure that it did look real. That's when they started getting the really detailed CGI, and that's also when the cartoon that are clearly CGI movies that came out after, like Happy Feet and stuff, and that's when you really saw CGI really go into detail and take over.
Well, one thing I remember is Final Fantasy has always been known for its amazing cinematics.
Completely. I mean-
Starting with like Final Fantasy VII and Final Fantasy VIII, they've always been known for the cinematics. Like they've always been really high, like really good graphics wise. And then once you get to like Final Fantasy 10, 11, 12, and then like when they start making, and then you think to yourself, they need to make a full-length movie with these kinds of cinematics with these characters, because you wish you could play these games in that kind of resolution, but unfortunately they haven't been able to recreate that exactly just yet. But they are getting there with, like I said, you got games like Tomb Raider, and then like Halo, and like all these newer games. They're really finally starting to get there, and Final Fantasy is like everyone's is now catching up to some of those high-res cinematic graphics, to the point where you won't be able to tell the difference between your cinematics and your gameplay at one point.
That's true. I mean, especially if you look at a game like you were talking MMOs earlier, like if you look at the graphics, I think it's Aeon where the characters just look completely ridiculously realistic. I mean, yeah, at some point you're going to get into that, but it really is going to a lot of the bases there. I mean, Final Fantasy, a lot of those were story-driven, and if you look at the games now, like you can't even really have like a Street Fighter game without having some sort of story driving properties or a story mode or something like that.
Yeah.
If you look at like any sort of RPG, MMO, otherwise, you'll notice that there's always hints of Dungeons and Dragons, and there's always hints of Final Fantasy. You always have like the same sort of summons, the same Bahamut, Tiamat, stuff like that. It's all about like, and I think this is really good for sci-fi, because I mean, I think you can see this in most sci-fis as well. You're building on the basic building blocks. If you look at a lot of like sci-fis that come out today, like Battlestar Galactica, I've even noticed in watching some of the new Doctor Who's, they've been sort of going with some of this. You can see some of the original Star Trek and some of the original Doctor Who, little bits and pieces in every single bit and piece of that. And that is Nagozic's rant of the day.
Well, thank you, Nagozic. We also got, another Aggro621 from the Twitch chat says, check out Onimusha, which is Onimusha, which is a game series from PlayStation 2, which did have very gorgeous cinematics. And, that's another thing with games is cinematics.
Oh,
Taking
yes.
over. When does
yeah.
cinematics change from actual gameplay? And should it stay separate? Because that's the thing, when you're talking about really, really good CGI in games, should it be separate from cinematics?
And that's what I was saying earlier. It's like it's going to get to a point where one day the graphics in your gameplay are going to be just as good as the cinematics, and you won't be able to tell the difference. And so should they be separate? Honestly,
Well, I think
don't
that-
really know how I feel about that, because you do want to play on that level of those really cool graphics, but at the same time, you want to be able to tell the difference between when you're playing and when a movie's going on. You don't want to play a movie.
Exactly, and I was going to bring up I don't know if any of you guys ever played this game called Xenosaga.
Oh, never mind.
And Xenosaga, I mean, like, it was entirely, like, basically, like, a big cutscene with, like, little breaks for video game play. There were cutscenes that literally lasted 45 minutes plus that you couldn't skip through, and it was just you sitting there watching this game go on. And I mean, there was a certain amount of like, you really didn't have the same sort of immersion that you would have with like a regular game. I fear that if you did like cutscenes combined with gameplay, you're going to lose out on a lot of that. But I mean, I've seen some. Yeah, go ahead.
At the same time, sorry, what was the name of that game again?
Xenosaga.
Xenosaga. So go ahead and check that out, guys. But another one is actually a more popular one is Indigo Prophecy and Heavy Rain. Those are two games that are also pure cinematic, but the story is so good you can get past the press X now, press Y now, press circle now. But because the story
Tomb
is
Raider
just
did
so
that.
amazing. Same thing with Tomb Raider.
They did that, and that's why some people. I used to work at retail, and some of my coworkers who were really cynical about video games said they felt like they're playing a movie. And for me, I felt like I was playing both a game and a movie. Sometimes it's really fun and interactive when you get to interact with the cinematic. But like I said, at the same time, it's like, do you really want to play a movie or do you want to play a game?
Yeah. To quote Aggro from the Mouthwash, shout out. He says, "Metal Gear, an 8-hour movie." And good God, you are right. You know, and that's the thing is, yes, when, as you said, Sarah, when do games become movies and when do movies become games? Really?
Yeah.
'Cause I mean,
well, if you don't mind me coming in a little bit.
Mr. Chris.
Hello there.
Yoko.
Howdy.
Yeah, actually, like going back to Heavy Rain, the studio Quantic Dream, they did this 2 short films displaying the whole PS4 engine now and all that stuff, which is actually really impressive how it actually captures motions of actors. Like there's this one that was basically fantasy, which was awesome because it was supposed to be like filming in a movie or something like that. And there's these things on their faces and just subtle actions that makes you actually see things more real, and it's just amazing how that thing has evolved.
I guess just sort of on that same sort of line, I think that another thing from Quantic Dream was the recently released Beyond Two Souls, which, as we all know,
yes.
Beyond
has
one.
Ellen Page and I forget the guy's name. He played the Green Goblin.
I will.
William Dafoe.
William
Thank
Dafoe.
you.
I love him.
Thank you.
Very underrated actor. Very
But I
underrated
mean, like,
actor.
yeah, like I was looking at some of the background scenes, and you can see their body is just entirely covered in electrodes, and they are just like simulating every single movement. It really is like, at some point, and I guess that this is really sort of a bit of an ethical question. Ellen Page is not literally in Beyond Two Souls. She's not filmed at any point, but her actions are filmed, her emotions are filmed, her reactions are filmed. So at that point, I guess, really, is she a star in the game, or is she not?
I would say yes. From someone who's done motion capture at school, and also like, you know, and that's where you start thinking about movies like take back to James Cameron's Avatar. They did. The actors, yeah, they were also in the movie, but what about the ones that were never technically on screen, but they were motion capture into the Na'vi? I mean, yes, I still consider that acting because they still have to act everything out. They still have to put the dots on their face, and they have to create, you know, those facial movements and all that stuff for them to record and to animate. So I think they are still, I do believe Ellen Page and William Dafoe definitely starred in it. Mm-hmm. Not only just their voices, but their facial expressions, you know, if they were, you know, by using motion capture and all that.
Well, let's go back to the original motion capture, which was for movies. Lord of the Rings, Gollum. He was an actor, is an actor. He helped direct The Hobbit. He deserves credit for that. And so if you're doing it in a game, you deserve credit. But a lot of the next-gen games are doing that capture. Another one of them is Middle Earth, Shadow of Mordor. That is another game coming out fairly soon. You never know with these next-gen games.
The thing is like with these motion captures, the reason why they're using them a lot more for games because all they have to do is set up a 3D character rig or a puppet in the program which they're making the game. And then if all they have to do is motion capture and have the actors move it out, then the animators don't even have to animate it. And it makes the process of making the cinematics in the game so much quicker and easier because, I don't have to animate that anymore because the actor's doing it. I just got to apply the character acting to the character, the 3D character, throw it in the game, and we're good. And that's why computer animation, why you see so many cartoons made with computers now, and they're not hand-drawn anymore. And same thing with video games.
Absolutely.
You know,
so I had a bit of a question for you, a bit of an idea. A few years back, I went and saw this movie called Mr. Payback. The entire thing was they basically like gave everyone in the audience little remotes, and at certain points in the movie, it would stop, and then you could choose the next part of the movie. You pushed a certain button for A, a certain part for B, a certain part for C, and then you, and what?
Sorry, no, finish, because I think I know where you're going. Finish.
Yeah, I mean, like, and that was something where you bought like, where you got 2 tickets and you could actually watch the movie change time. I'm wondering, with all of this technology to work in video games and stuff like that, how soon do you think it is until we actually have like a theater rented out for multiplayer 2-hour like Call of Duty sessions or something like that, where everyone's got controllers in there, everything's like sort of CGI acted? How soon do you think until we actually have a way that we're actually basically eliminating the line between movie and game, movie and show, before we're actually eliminating any of these potential
I think it's actually going to rift more. The fact that people don't want to do things when they watch a movie, but watch the dang movie. You know, like one I'm looking forward to, Rise of the Planet of the Apes and Dawn of the Planet of the Apes. Andy Serkis, another one of his CGI films. But, you know, that's one of those stories you don't want to interfere with. You don't want to interfere with that story. Lord of the Rings, you don't want to interfere with that story.
I agree. I think at no point will it ever be blended together. You know, when you watch TV, because they're short stories, they're short, good stories told in 30 minutes to an hour. With movies, they're good, long stories told anywhere between 90 minutes to 2 to 3 hours. And then you got video games, which are really good stories that you interact with physically that can last anywhere from 8-hour gameplay to 20-hour gameplay, depending on the game.
Or 150 hour.
Exactly. Like Skyrim and all that, and those and MMOs. At no point, I don't think they'll ever cross boundaries. I think they'll make games that are kind of like movies, but you're still gonna be interacting. But I definitely don't think at any point there should be no lines being crossed, because that will upset the community that really isn't in the games or isn't in the movies or isn't in a TV. You have different demographics and what people like, because not everyone's a gamer, not everyone's a moviegoer, not everyone's a TV person. So I can't imagine them ever crossing those boundaries.
Oh, I can.
Well, there's also this thing happening
is
where
something they've been trying for forever. You know, they want you to get in and live the experience. They literally want you to live the experience.
Yeah, and that's where they start having like the Oculus Rift. If anyone's seen that on the internet, the visual or the virtual reality video game, and then they're eventually gonna start probably making like movie theaters. Like you already got IMAX. They want you to be immersed in that. But I don't think at any point, like when it comes to interacting with it, that it will go too far with movies. Because especially if you're in the case of if you're like selecting options, I mean,
well, that's
that like not everyone's gonna want to agree with it, and you might not get what you want and everything, and that could start like you know how. Hey, listeners, you know how people get violent when they play those online games. Imagine if someone chose the answer you didn't want or something like that. It could get just imagine that.
Hell breaking loose there. Hell breaking loose. But I gotta say, honestly,
I think they'll go there. There'll be a number of people who do like that.
I think the only reason this question is really big is because of games like Heavy Rain. But the thing is, Heavy Rain, it's a movie. I don't care what you say. It's a movie. And the only reason it's in video game format is because it's a 14-hour movie, and there ain't no way you're going to sit through that.
Dude,
I have to save point.
I have to disagree with that. I mean, there are games that are movies. I mean, if you look at some of the new ones coming out, like Gary's Mod, Dear Esther, stuff like that, where it really is just sort of... You look like you're about to say something.
Oh, the only reason that they're games is because they're 14 hours long.
Well, but there's something to, I mean, you are sort of playing the storyline, but I mean, you are still playing it. You are still interacting. I mean, that's sort of the difference. My only interaction if I'm watching Lord of the Rings is to hit play or pause or possibly just have nightmares about Gollum coming to get me in my sleep. That's really my only interaction.
Those are nightmares for you? For me, they're dreams.
Oh.
But when you control like each step that a player takes, I think that's what the defining thing is.
Yeah, exactly. At some point,
video games you have control.
Yes.
Exactly.
Yeah, video games you are in this. You are in the story. I mean, you may be watching it. It may be like someone like Titus or something like that, where you're not actually the person, but I mean, at the same time, you are controlling their actions.
You are taking that journey with the character, but you're controlling that journey.
Well, what separates it is the ability to have choice. Because if you look at a game like L.A. Noire, right?
Noire?
L.A. Noire.
It's noir, because based on noir films.
I'm speaking English.
it's
you're-
based off
Film
classic
noir.
I
black and
understand.
white noir.
Noir,
films.
Yeah.
yes.
LA
Noir. But games like that have,
Thank you
there
for
is a
having
bad guy, and it is one person, and you will find that one person.
Yeah.
There is no choice aspect. You can go through the same motions, but it might take you longer than the next guy to get there, but you're still going to go through the same motions and find the same guy.
But
LA
that doesn't
Noir
mean-
expanded on it and made it a lot more choicey, but it still is that it's a single storyline.
But I mean, you could look at the same sort of thing like Legend of Zelda. It's a single storyline. I mean,
Yeah.
really, if you look at all these games, it's a single storyline. But
Well, even
the
Tomb
fact that
Raider
you've
is a
even
single
got control,
storyline.
I mean,
Yeah,
even if
Tomb
you
Raider's
wa-
in the story.
even if you wind up playing
bow
something
to
very
you.
very straight. I mean, looking at like Astyanax or Astyanax or however you pronounce that from like the 80s, that was a game, or like Castlevania is probably another better example. That is a game where you start at the beginning, you just keep going through the levels one after another. There isn't a whole lot of choice, but that doesn't mean it's not a game. You're still playing it. You're still controlling Simon
Exactly.
or Trevor or whichever Belmont you've got today.
And this is where I go back to like how I miss like classic platforming games. Like some people may not agree with me, but Banjo-Kazooie series, oh my gosh, some of the best games I've ever played on the Nintendo 64, and I love that classic platforming that Rare did. You know, that you still had freedom. There were like puzzles all around and things you had to accomplish before you could even get to the boss, and so you still had that free range of what order you did things in, but you still had that linear storyline. And that's like going back to Final Fantasy 14. You have quests that you follow along on a really long storyline, but you have side quests that you can do just because you want to see what else is going on in the world of Eorzea.
I heard you saying that earlier, and as a WoW player, I have to say I don't really see how that's different from WoW. I mean, WoW has the exact same sort of thing.
Well, when I was playing
You've
WoW,
got
I never found any like solid storyline. Like, I guess I can explain it to you off air or show it to you, because like, but pretty much like there's this huge main storyline that everyone follows. But with WoW, there was a storyline, but like you could jump around to multiple different storylines. And for me, that's where I kind of got confused. There wasn't like a good like. It's so hard to explain.
But it's sort of like, and I guess I can explain this more off air, but in my opinion, a lot of it is, you've got like all these little miniature storylines, but a lot of it feeds into sort of the main storyline, which sort of comes back again to like the Final Fantasy method of making games, where you might have like a couple different storylines, for instance, like Vivi and Steiner going off over here, Zidane and Kina going off over here, and you've got these little miniature like threads, but they all wind up tying into the same story in some way.
And that's a very good
sorry.
way to do it, because they're obviously in stories. If it's a good written story, it's going to have an ending, and it's going to have an ending that's absolute. And there's like games where there's different endings, but the ending is always generally the same. But that's how it has to go, But Phee, question for you: when it comes to movies, blending into games and games blending into movies, what do you think is going to be the future of that? Like, let's look at 2025. Let's go short range.
I don't know. I think, I don't know, because it's already so blended already. I could see a lot more of the buttons coming into play, but I do think that they're going to have to keep that line in order to keep making money in either industry. Just even from a strictly business standpoint, I think they're going to have to keep it pretty separate so that people will keep going, because people kind of get set in their ways. People don't want to go to necessarily, a lot, there's a huge generational thing where a lot of people aren't going to want to go to a movie if they have to be clicking a button and, deciding what's going to happen next. So I think that's still going to be.
That's true. I mean, movies generally do have a certain bit of escapism, and it's hard to it's hard to really escape when you've got like that particular interaction.
You go to the movies to watch someone else's story, watch them go on a journey. Video games, you go on that journey with someone.
Yeah, you play Skyrim.
Movies, you watch someone else.
You play Skyrim to make your own journey. By the way, for the Aldmeri Dominion, I'm Wood Elf all day. Bosmiri all day. And Aggro from the Mouthwash says, for the Daedra.
For the
No
dreadlocks.
Lightball. For the dreadlocks and the Daedra, Hermaeus Mora, and whatnot, Shiggorath. Anyway, that was the Skyrim fix. Yes.
Well done, sir. Well done indeed.
Yeah, it's really that distinction between playing, making your own story, and watching a story is really going to be what splits it, Sarah. You got that.
Yeah.
You are completely
What can
correct.
I say?
I think
I
at
love
most,
choices.
at
though.
most,
They
I
want
think
you
it
to-
might
They want
be.
you to get involved. They want you to get lost in it. That's exactly what they want. Because if you get lost in it, then they're making money.
Yes.
Yep.
That's
And
true.
It's not a bad thing to get lost in a game. All right.
I think
Not
it,
out there.
Not always.
I think at most, like if something like that were to happen, like I don't see it ever replacing any sort of movie media. I would just see it more as like an addition to.
Agreed.
Like
agreed.
Yep.
I mean, like sort of how
I
you
totally
have
agree.
IMAX, and that doesn't replace theaters, but there's sort of like a different experience if you see it IMAX 3D versus if you just see it regular in the theater.
Exactly. It's just going to be another form of media. You're going to have your TV shows, your movies, your video games, and you're going to have your video game movies where it's like watching a movie, but you get interactive film, interactive movie.
I think that
You
you
get a
actually
choice
they should
sometimes
make that
of
a
what
genre.
your ending is,
They should
or you don't get a
categorize
choice.
that. Yes.
They're going to give you options that way. You can have the surprise choice that you want to be involved in, or you can follow the plot, right?
Yes, and they should actually make
Kinda
that
cool.
category of movie game.
Agreed.
But we are wrapping up here on Master Control. Yes, we are ending the session tonight, and we will be back next week, same time, same place, Thursday, 7 p.m. on GeekStreetSociety.com and Twitch.tv live. Yes, just look for Chris Yoko, that's Yoko with a C, or hashtag GSS Master Control to catch us next week at 7 p.m. for a special show. And what are we going to be talking about there, Phee?
Twilight Zone.
Do-do-do.
Not Twilight, but
Wobbles.
Can we at least
That's
talk a
your
little bit about the
signpost up
strange
ahead?
door as well?
Yes,
Or
we
the
can talk
spooky
about the
door?
strange door. Spooky door. I can't remember which one, but Futurama reference. Yes.
Tales of the Crypt too.
Oh, you
Yes.
can't beat that.
No.
Yes. That's your signpost up ahead. The next stop, Master Control, next week, because we are signing out of here. Make sure to follow us on Twitter at GeekStreetGSS and like our Facebook page at facebook.com/Geek Street Society. And watch us live next week on twitch.tv #GSS Master Control, or find Chris Yoko, that's Yoko with a C, on twitch.tv, and he will have all things Geek Street Society on his page there. And you can also find our videos on youtube.com #Geek Street Society. Look for Master Control, and don't forget to download the mobile apps Spreaker and TuneIn. And again, find us at #Geek Street Society. You can listen to our old shows, you can listen to our new shows, listen to us all the time. Master Control up in your brain. And we are signing off. So I'm Ace saying goodbye.
It's Phee saying goodnight.
This is Sarah saying, see you next time.
This is Mark saying bye.
This is Nagozik, behind the glass as always.
And here's Chris Yoko.
And that will do it for this week's edition of Master Control on Geek Street Society. You've been listening to Master Control on GeekStreetSociety.com. Yes, GSS. Be sure to join us every weekday for more great geek-related programming, as well as during the weekend. Thank you so much for listening, and we will see you next time.